nom, nom, nom.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of the Sac City Podcast. I am your host, the one and only Vinny Milani, joined as always by ya boy. What you shaking your head for? What are you shaking your head for? It was the wrong intro. It was the wrong intro. It was the wrong fucking intro. There you go. Joined as always.
One that I uploaded and was like, oh crap,
great.
Can't do
fucking
that.
Great.
That's
Next time, don't delete it. Next time, don't delete it.
Next time, trust me.
Don't delete it next time. Welcome into the show, everybody. I am your host, the one and only Vinny Milani, joined as always by ya boy, AJ Johnson. Below him, we have my best friend in the whole entire world, Aaron, the Mukesiah Mukes. And below me, we have the new reigning, defending, undisputed heavyweight valedictorian of the show, Dylan Kearns. It is a beautiful July 7th morning here in the city. Episode 51 is about to kick off. We are talking the NFC South and their fantasy outlook today. Gentlemen, normally we get breaking news and it throws off our entire show. This time, we got breaking news yesterday that didn't throw off our entire show. I'm leading off with our top headlines this morning. Breaking news, not so breaking news this morning, but breaking news. We can finally talk about Baker Mayfield and not some rumor mill, not some reports, not some nonsense. The Carolina Panthers have officially acquired Baker Mayfield from the Cleveland Browns in exchange for a 2025 fifth-round pick. The Browns will pay Baker Mayfield $10.5 million this season. The deal has finally been done, gentlemen. Aaron, your thoughts?
Thank God we can finally actually talk about it and not have to be like, well, let's just wait and see. I think this was inevitable. I think this was the move that we kind of all knew would eventually happen to the team that we all thought it would actually happen with. And I know Dylan had mentioned something a while back about if he went to Carolina. I also said that I thought it makes a huge difference going to Carolina versus one of those other teams that didn't really have a good defense or not many weapons there. I think a Christian McCaffrey, a DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Terrace Marshall, pretty good offensive weapons, decent offensive weapons. I'm not going to say great, but there's some good weapons there. A solid defense. I think it's the perfect fit for Baker. I think it's outside of what he already had, obviously, in Cleveland, but just starting fresh, starting anew. I think it is a good fit, and I'm cautiously optimistic. I'll use that word. Like, I think Baker's talented. I've always said I think he's a good quarterback, but he could never elevate you to get you over that hump. And in the NFL, I believe you need that in most cases. But I do think he's going to have an opportunity to prove himself once again, play with the chip on his shoulder. And I think that's when he's at his best, is when that chip is on his shoulder, right? He's done it pretty much his whole life. And now he gets that chip back on his shoulder where he's going to be looked at as the first round, number 1 overall pick, the guy that busts. So I think he gets that chip back, and I think he's in a good spot, and I think he'll win that job easily. And then he'll do good things in Carolina.
Well, there was the report that said that the quarterback 1 job is still open for the Carolina Panthers, and they don't guarantee the spot to Baker Mayfield. I want to correct myself. That trade actually was a 2024 fifth-round pick, not a 2025 that I said before. It is a 2024 fifth-round pick going to the Cleveland Browns. And for the Browns here, this is obviously coming after they acquired Deshaun Watson and now going through the headaches that are coming and attached to Deshaun Watson. They had to get Baker Mayfield out of here. Is this a good move for the Cleveland Browns, Dylan?
Yes, because, I mean, you can't look at this. You can't go into the season with Baker Mayfield on this roster. And both sides knew that. Both sides knew that you can't get it done. I mean, you look at Baker Mayfield and what he's done throughout his career in Cleveland. I mean, hell, he got him to the postseason, right? That's something not a lot of Browns quarterbacks have done, not many in a very long time. I mean, he was solid for their franchise, but at the end of the day, once they acquired Deshaun Watson, that really soured the taste in the mouth. The whole relationship there was fractured a little bit before that. But, I mean, you can't go into the season with this guy on your roster. both sides knew he was either going to end up being cut or he was going to have to end up being traded, which the latter happened here today. There was no way that he could have gone into the season on that roster. That relationship was just completely fractured. So, of course, it's the right move for Cleveland right here. Just parting ways with him and finding a suitable trade partner to where he has an opportunity to go start and be a quarterback in this league again. And they get some sort of compensation, albeit as little. You're not getting much for him because they knew that he had to move on from that situation.
Yeah, that's the thing. When we talked about it throughout this entire process was the Browns were not going to get something that was going to be this massive, great package. I mean, we saw what Carson Wentz went for before. They weren't going to get anything like that. It just wasn't. They just weren't going to, with the fact that he was done in Cleveland. They still owed him money, and they would have had to eat it, and they did eat some money finally. And now he is a Carolina Panther. AJ, for the Carolina Panthers standpoint, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield. Who's the rookie that they brought in? What is it? Matt Corral. I always get those two kids mixed up. Quarterback position here in Carolina. It is Baker's, right? Or are you thinking that there will be a legit competition, a serious competition come training camp and preseason?
No, I think Sam Darnold got a fair shake in their eyes. I know we talked a little bit about how we thought he could do it. We thought he was a little bit more talented than it seemed to translate on the field. But I think they traded up to draft Matt Corral, and then they still went out, and even when everything broke down multiple times, still went back for a third date with Baker Mayfield and brought him in. So clearly they don't believe in Sam Darnold enough. And I mean, I don't know the level of wow he would have to give in training camp in a legit competition for them to say, all right, thanks, Baker. We ate half of your salary. We're paying you this bonus, but we're going to start Sam Darnold again. And if he proves he can't do it, then we'll let you play. I mean, you brought him in on the back end of his deal, knowing that you're more than likely going to have to pay him. He's going to be under center more than likely at the beginning of the season.
I did want to bring up something just to kind of play devil's advocate, because I know what I said, but I just thought about it a little bit more, especially with AJ's point. They're not really paying Baker a lot, right? They're paying him $5 million. Sam Darnold's due $18 million this year that they're paying him. So I think when statements are made like, hey, they're going to compete, I think it's because Carolina's thinking, well, shit, we kind of need Sam Darnold to give a competition, because maybe we do start the season with Sam Darnold saying, hey, he knows the offense. We have to pay him $18 million. I promise you, no team in the NFL wants to pay a backup quarterback $18 million. They don't. So they're probably going to give Sam Darnold that opportunity to earn that job. Now, I think Baker Mayfield's better. I think that's fair to say. So ultimately, I don't think he does win it. But it would not shock me if come week one they say, hey, Sam's been here. Sam knows the offense. He was here in OTAs. He's going to start. And then Baker Mayfield, once they're 0-6 or once they're 2-4, Baker Mayfield comes in. Because think about this. Baker Mayfield still has to prove he can be worthy of a long-term deal. What is the best way to minimize his value is to not let him on the field, which means if you hold him out for 5, 6, 7 weeks of the season, and then you bring him in and he plays pretty decent, you can minimize what you have to pay him versus if you start him week one and Carolina goes to the playoffs, guess what happens? Now you're paying $20, $30+ million for a quarterback you still might not be sure of. I'm not saying it's going to happen. This is just devil's advocate. But remember one thing about the NFL. Quarterbacks that make $20 million a year, they don't like benching those guys. Simple as that. And Sam Darnold is making almost $20 million a year.
That's chunk change for David Tepper and company.
It's not. It's salary cap. It's not about chunk change, Dylan. It's salary cap issues. It's $18 million they could have had spent somewhere. Owners don't like eating. They just don't.
You brought Baker in to win now. That's the reason you make this move. And I know
Did you though? You didn't. You brought Baker to be your franchise quarterback, the future, because that's what you're looking to.
Really?
Remember when Carson Wentz shit the bed and he had just signed that big time contract? They couldn't have Carson Wentz on the bench while Nick Foles was starting. They couldn't, because he was making too much money. You've seen this over and over again with quarterbacks that get paid and maybe they don't live up to it. They end up having to move on Because these owners don't want to sit there, look down on that sideline and see what was supposed to be their guy make $18 to $20 million, and they have to stare at him with a helmet and an earpiece holding up, listening to the plays while the other guy's on the field playing. They don't like it. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but they don't like it. And let's be real. At the end of the day, most of these owners are about bottom line. They're not always about winning. It's not always about championships. It's about their bottom line. And Sam Darnold still has that bottom line. Devil's advocate, why not let Sam Darnold maybe show some promise like he did through 3 or 4 weeks of the season last year, and you trade him? Or you again, or look to trade him. Just get anything back. Maybe you get a 5th or 6th round pick back that you get from him, and maybe you end up having to pay some of his salary, but guess what? You were already paying that 18.5 anyways. To me, there are other options. I said I think Baker prevails as the starter because I do think he's the more talented player at this point, and I think he's going to prove that. But I wouldn't be like, oh my God, I can't believe it, if Sam Darnold was the quarterback week 1.
Yeah, that's fair. The Panthers. So get this: the Panthers traded away in total for the 3 quarterbacks that they have. They traded away a 2nd round pick, a 3rd round pick, a 4th round pick, a 4th round pick, a 5th and a 6th, all to assemble Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, and Matt Corral as their quarterback room. It's a tough look for the Carolina Panthers, and I thought it was funny that Ian Rappaport said finally a good trade for the Carolina Panthers because now acquiring Baker Mayfield, it's finally a good potential trade. What does this mean, though, for Matt Rule, though? That's like where the one last thing I want to touch on with. I mean, is this his last-ditch effort to try and be okay, so this has nothing to do with Matt Rule.
It extended him, to be honest. If you make anything, like, it gave him more time. Because now you're talking about a quarterback that's coming in July. Training camp starts at the end of the month. He didn't have OTAs. He doesn't know the playbook. He's got to learn. We're 2 months from season, and we're expecting them to come out and do something special. To me, I just think it extends Matt Rule's opportunity. Now, if they're atrocious, anybody can get fired. But if they're trying to treading water, winning games, losing games, and they look like they're making some sort of strides and Baker's playing decent, I think it just buys them another year, at least. Okay.
We're going to talk about the Carolina Panthers and their fantasy outlook in just a few moments. Especially, I mean, this is huge, bringing in Baker Mayfield to be your quarterback and what implications it means for the wide receivers and company in Carolina for fantasy. We're going to try something new here. AJ, I'm going to give you the social read here, but StreamYard came up clutch for us, so I'm going to see how this sounds.
Are you sure he didn't delete it?
I can see all the beautiful people at home where they can follow us at.
All right. Well, I hope you guys can hear me. And if you can, good morning, Sac City. We're so appreciative you decided to spend your early hours with us right here at Sac City Pod on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Once you head on over there, go ahead and hit those likes. Go ahead and hit those shares, those follows, those hearts. All of it. Every part of it. Every little bit of it. You know you want to. So once again, at Sac City Pod. Ain't that hard to do. On Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on YouTube, on TikTok. And we sure do appreciate it. Good morning, Sac City. Hashtag GMSC. Wednesdays through Fridays, 10 a.m. Eastern. Holla at you, boys.
Who picked this music?
It was honestly
we could do.
It was very quick. I was like, you know what? Let me try and find the social media, like a good social media background song here. And then I was like, all right, this will do for now. It's a work in progress, okay? It's a work in progress.
That sounded like a tutorial, one of those like LinkedIn, basically like tutorial music in the background.
When you see 20
I actually
minutes,
apologize. I meant to get at you, get with you more so to speak. I actually have a track that I've used on the audio religiously, but we couldn't add music until just now, and then it totally blew my mind, even though yesterday we had such a great time talking about the fact that they can add music. So we'll get together. We'll work.
I expect our producer to be a lot better. Like, I'm be honest with you. Like, I expect now, yes, we're changing the game.
Holy shit. Yeah, this is a game changer. Ooh, full screen.
I didn't need you to play them.
I brought all the classic. I brought 2 of the classics back. Okay, I'm working my way with the new. Yeah, I'm working my way.
I need you to be better.
To getting the drops.
You're gonna need
back.
crickets when I'm here.
Oh, I'm trying to get. I put in the Smartest Man Alive drop, and I put it in the Boo This Man drop specifically because those are the 2 probably most common used drops that I recall using. Yeah. So we're gonna have some fun with this. We're gonna have some
StreamYard's got some bugs to fix too. It's like cutting people out and it's coming in hollow, but it's the beginning. It's the beginning, so I believe it'll get a lot better as time goes.
Got to work out the kinks, and I'm just happy StreamYard has done this though. But AJ, you've kind of taken over the rankings here. How we kick things off our fantasy outlooks by ranking a certain position group within the division. We're talking the NFC South tonight, and there is an interesting group of receivers within the NFC South. So AJ, what does the top 8 receivers look like for fantasy in the NFC South?
All right, so this was another interesting one. You think about the injuries that are still lingering and the injured who are coming back, and I went a little different here. I think the consensus for this coming up season with some injuries we have, I'm going to go with number 1 is Mike Evans. I think going back to the number 1 target to start. Secondly, I'll go DJ Moore as the number 1 in Carolina with Baker. Chris Godwin, I put him as 3rd with the idea that he'll be back with after 6 weeks. I think he'll still have enough time to come in and still be Tom Brady's favorite receiver. Then I went with Drake London, the number 1 in Atlanta. I think he's got some fun things he can do with Marcus Mariota, who is a little bit more agile than Matt Ryan. Allows him to get downfield when Mariota's making some plays. Number 5, I went with Chris Olave. I've been hearing that they plan on using him quite well in New Orleans. Then I went Russell Gage, Robbie Anderson at 7. And then just as the respect and the curiosity of what he may do when he comes back, I would put Michael Thomas at 8 overall. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mr. Johnson. Are you for real? Come on, man.
That list is atrocious.
I think you took a shit and threw it up on the board, my guy. I mean, honestly, come on. I think Michael Thomas should be higher to begin with. I know we haven't seen him for a while, but that's not what I want to argue with. Throw it back up here, kid. Look at number 5, 4, Drake London in the top 4. The guy hasn't played a game. Yeah. He's got a shitburger of a quarterback. You got Chris Godwin, I understand, coming off an ACL. I think he's still top 5 on this list. Chris Olave, come on, bro. Jarvis Landry's still there. I think he could honestly be better than Chris. You got Chris Olave as a rookie in the top 5 receivers in this division. Russell Gage in a better situation. By the way, I did my research. I rescind what I said earlier. The guy could potentially have a good year. But Robbie Anderson, I think's okay. I don't hate the list, but I mean, I think it's bad to an extent with some of the names you have on that list.
Dylan's right. You had 2 rookies in the top 5 in that division. Stop.
I mean, it's top 5 out of 8. So really 5 don't even matter.
But Michael Thomas is a Pro Bowler, All-Pro. Like, that dude's legit.
Look, right, but at the same time, we also don't know if he's going to be back 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. We've heard different things for the last 2 seasons. And again, we haven't seen him for 2 seasons. Honestly, Jarvis Landry was on this list, and I only put Mike Thomas there because of the conversation that will be had with him. With the Chris Olave thing, say what you like. And I don't know how
you know how you're going to justify Chris Olave over Jarvis Landry or Drake London over Jarvis Landry.
I could justify Drake.
Vinny, what are you doing?
Man's playing around with him during the show.
I was trying to do the Boo This Man drop while he was going after he finished before you talked, but I realized that StreamYard does fuck up, so the drops are going to have to be on pause for the rest of the show. Proceed.
We'll get there.
Go ahead. I'll let you.
I'll let you go, and then I should respond to both in kind.
So first of all, I don't know how you have both rookies over Jarvis Landry. To me, that's insane. Jarvis Landry is in a great situation, and I do agree. I think Michael Thomas is further down on the list. But I'm sorry, Jarvis Landry and Michael Thomas both should be over Chris Olave. You also should have Russell Gage over Chris Olave. You should also have Russell Gage over Drake London. The quarterback situation plays a huge factor in Atlanta. And Drake London, we talk about people not playing games. let's not forget, Drake London played 8 games and coming off of a broken leg or foot or whatever it was. And yes, he's performed well without pads against no defense and in OTAs, but he's still a rookie. He's still going to have to learn the game. I think we're doing this fantasy outlook like most people do fantasy outlooks. We see 2 rookie receivers that were drafted high in the first round, so we assume they're going to have to be some sort of impact. And it just isn't the case. They have too many people to battle in order to make that happen. Number one, Drake London has to battle his quarterback. Number 2, he has to battle Kyle Pitts for targets. And there are still veterans there that are going to be in the mix. I know he's been a disappointment, but Brian Edwards. Brian Edwards is going to be a factor in Atlanta. Him and Mariota have a connection. They were both together with the Raiders. That connection is real. They've talked about it. Not that I cover the Falcons or anything, but I covered them a few times. And so those things I take into consideration. I think Drake London as a rookie, it's going to be hard to produce at the level we're talking about. Fantasy wise, just from numbers perspective, I don't see how you can have those 2 over those other guys.
All right, so both of you, very valid points. Dylan, I mean, you painted it up nice. Let's just say it that way. Your plate was beautiful with your words. All right, so the Chris Olave statue. First and foremost, let me say this: Jarvis Landry absolutely belongs on this list. I could take him out for a Robbie Anderson and be happy with it. I absolutely will concede that fact. Again, I told you that he would have been in the 7 or 6 for me. 7 or 6 for me. Russell Gage, I'm sorry. I do believe, we've talked about Russell Gage at length. I do believe he's in a great situation. I do believe he's going to have a pretty good season. But you're talking about the number 3 receiver to what I believe is going to be the number 1 in Atlanta. I understand that Bryan Edwards is going to be a factor, but Drake London was brought there for this reason: to 1, supplant Calvin Ridley this season, and 2, if in any shot in hell Calvin Ridley comes back, to be their running mate next to Kyle Pitts. I do believe that they are going to make him a huge part of this offense, and he will be the number 1 receiver. You bring up the 8 games he played, and yes, we know it's college, but in those 8 games, he still had 88 receptions and over 1,000 yards in 8 games. That's great production. He has some of the characteristics necessary to kind of counteract when a quarterback is not at their best. So I think his deep game is going to be hard to stop. I think his yards after catch is going to be hard to stop, and that's going to be some of the things that I think will bring him up to that top notch. Chris Olave, for me, a lot of hearsay. They like his style. If Michael Thomas is not ready to go, they plan on using him a lot like they will be using Michael Thomas. Now, when Michael Thomas gets back, if he's healthy, can he supplant Chris Olave? More than likely. So that would be the argument there. But I think with him being there, the amount that Jameis is probably going to throw this ball to start the season, Jarvis Landry, Chris Olave, and Alvin. Well, Alvin won't be there probably for 6 weeks. So to start the season, you have a lot of Chris Olave to show what can happen. So there's reasons that this list landed this way. There's other things I can concede that I missed out on for sure.
I want to say one more point here. You talk about wide receiver 3s and you bring up Russell Gage. Chris Olave is the wide receiver 3 on that roster right now. Say what you want about Michael Thomas, right? I mean, I understand. I very well get your point. We haven't seen him for a while. Nothing but negative news the last 2 years from that guy and what he could bring to the offense. I still think come week 1, you can't factor in not having him there. I think he will absolutely be there. Him opposite Jarvis Landry, those are the 1-2. Chris Olave ahead of a Russell Gage 3. With a Hall of Fame quarterback, albeit in that with a great offense in Tampa Bay as well. That's where it just bothers me a little bit. But I think you have a few good receivers that I also have on that list, but I don't think Olave would make mine.
I can't. I was going to let it go, but I can't. You don't need to solo me. Bring us back all 4 together. So AJ, I just want you talked about Russell Gage being the number 3 and Drake London being the number 1 in Atlanta. What were the number 1 receiver in Atlanta stats last year? With Matt Ryan.
Rash. I mean,
but what does that with the better quarterback? So what does that matter?
I mean, this is going to be a different. This is going to be. But this is a
5,000 yards last year. 5,000. And now you're going to an off. Russell Gage was the number 1 receiver in Atlanta last year. And now he's going to an offense of the quarterback that's throwing for 5,000 yards a year. And now Matt Ryan's gone in Atlanta. You're bringing in Marcus Mariota, who's never even thrown for like 3,500. So that argument really doesn't fly with me. Another thing, you mentioned his deep ball game. Drake London's not a deep ball threat. Drake London is Michael Thomas.
What?
Drake London runs a 4.640.
That doesn't matter. You don't have to run a 4.2 to be a deep ball threat. If you can get down the field 30, 40 yards and catch over
Drake London is Michael Thomas 2.0. He is a big body receiver, an excellent route runner, and he doesn't get much separation. Go watch the tape. He is not a
I've watched a lot of tape.
You watching college guys that aren't touching him at the line of scrimmage.
In the Pac-12.
When in the Pac-12, when he is touched, he is not getting down the field. He is a big body guy who can catch over the middle, runs great routes, contested catches. He is not a deep ball guy. Chris Olave, you want to argue is a deep ball guy? Drake London is not a deep ball guy. I don't know where you get this thought process of him being.
I will drop as many highlights as you'd like.
Again, you can drop any NFL receiver's college tape and they have deep ball highlights. That's his skill set does not play to an NFL deep threat receiver. He is a big body guy that plays more like Michael Thomas, not some stretch the field guy. And then you brought Chris Olave is going to fill the role of Michael Thomas. Chris Olave doesn't play like Michael Thomas. Chris Olave is the down the field threat guy who's an excellent route runner, but he's also gets way more separation than Michael Thomas ever got. Like, he's not going to be this guy that's running these slant routes. They're not going to use Chris Olave that way because he's better than that. He's a better route runner. He's going to run deep digs. He's going to run button hooks. He's going to run, double moves, post routes, because he can do those things that Michael Thomas doesn't generate that separation. Comparing those receivers is just false. Those receivers do not have any skill set that matches. I couldn't listen to it. I can't. They don't match. I'm not saying, and I'm not even really arguing the point whether they're going to be good or not. The fact that the fact of those skill sets or how they're going to replace those receivers, I think they're going to have to be used a different way. Drake London is going to have to get contested catches. I don't know that Atlanta is going to run that type of offense. They don't get their offense. They have no line. I don't know how we can look at an Atlanta number one receiver and say, I'm choosing that guy because he's the number one receiver. Kyle Pitts is the number one receiver there.
Yeah,
because we've seen him get 1,000 yards.
If we rank tight ends, that's where it would have been.
I just don't to me, Russell Gage having a good as year of Drake London is more than possible, especially if Godwin misses time.
Yeah, if he misses time, it'll be the 2 for for a little bit of the season. That could definitely help his case early on.
I just think Olave to me should be down around 7 or 8. Jarvis Landry to me, I'll be honest, I have at 4. I have Jarvis Landry at 4. I have Godwin's the asterisk. I put Godwin at 3 just because if he does start, by week 3 or 4, he's going to produce. Russell Gage would be right after that. And then I would go like Drake London, Chris Olave, maybe. And the only reason I put Olave ahead of Michael Thomas is because I'll be honest, Dylan, who the hell knows with Michael Thomas?
Yeah, who the hell knows?
Not a guy I'm trusting.
I want to talk about Michael Thomas in a little bit when we get to the Saints. But AJ, I will say this: I really, really like Mike Evans at number 1. That's what I'll say. I really like Mike Evans at number 1. Let's get into the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Let's get into the Mike Evans Tampa Bay Buccaneers and their fantasy outlook. Yeah, 1 and 2 are good. 1 and 2 are good. DJ Moore and Mike Evans. But let's get into the Bucs. Let's talk about them. And, I had a really hard time trying to come up with something to talk about with Tom Brady that just wasn't stupid when it came to just fantasy and football in general, because you could just ask that standard question of when will it run out? When will time catch up to Tom Brady? And there's just no answer to that. So I came up with another stupid question. Is Tom Brady the best non-dual threat fantasy quarterback option this year in drafts, Aaron? Non-dual threat quarterback. So that's not talking Lamar. I consider Patrick Mahomes a dual threat quarterback.
Okay,
I consider Josh Allen. I consider.
Well, what kind of?
It's for me, and the reason why I said I think this may be stupid is because I don't know if people are putting like a Joe Burrow and a Justin Herbert ahead of Tom Brady, because those guys are not. I don't think those guys are the dual threat, like the typical dual threat quarterbacks. So that's where I find this.
Okay,
so to decide.
So I disagree, because I would argue that Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert are dual threat. They don't always use it. And it doesn't always translate into fantasy, or they don't always end up having to use it. but they are capable of using it. So when I say dual threat, to me, it's like threat means they could do it. Tom Brady has no shot to run anywhere. Because I was almost going to throw out the name. I was going to almost throw out the name Russell Wilson if we base on style of play. Russell Wilson has not been a runner of the football for the past really like 3 years. Like that game has kind of changed for him. If I didn't categorize him, if I categorize like him, Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford, Derek Carr, Tom Brady in that group, I think I would still put Tom Brady at the top because of how much they throw the football. And then the style of offense in which he's playing in, right? It's so high volume that you're going to get numbers. The only other person I would consider is probably a Russell Wilson in a new offense. So I worry about that a little bit. But yeah, Tom Brady is going to throw a lot of touchdowns. That right there is why. 1 yard line, I'm Tom Brady, I can throw it. Or you might get a quarterback sneak. Things like that, I think Tom Brady. Look at that dual threat. Of course, you got him running the football.
Oh, man. Dual threat my ass, Tom Brady. Like,
Yeah.
I can do this shit. I can do this shit all the way.
But I do think he would be the guy.
He is the man of mystery this season, I feel like, because there's no, like, you are wondering when time will catch up to him. But over the past 2 seasons, he has been a top 5 quarterback more times than any other quarterback in the league besides Josh Allen. And he's you can't go against him. But his
arm is on his shoulder and the line protects him. Tom Brady can play football. That's because he's smarter than everybody on the field. The father time, when we talk about father time, is going to come run into him when he gets hurt, when he gets hit and he's hurt. His arm, as long as his shoulder's in good shape and he can throw the football, father time will never catch up because the fact is he's smarter than everybody on the football field.
AJ, is he, we talked about Travis Kelce being like, when we talked Dynasty, we're like, okay, you're going to go down with the ship with Travis Kelce no matter what. Is Tom Brady that same way where you're just going to go down with the ship with Tom Brady no matter what? You're still going to draft him wherever his ADP is. You're still going to ride the ship with Tom Brady and die on that hill.
I'm not drafting him in a dynasty league. I mean,
I'm not talking. I was making the comparison of when we talked about Travis Kelce dying on that hill with Travis Kelce. We're going to keep drafting, we're going to keep riding him until he dies, and you will take that hit. Tom Brady, the same thing. You're drafting him in redraft leagues, and you're okay with taking the hit and trusting that. No,
we had this conversation, Vinny.
Yeah,
we did this last time. I said I won't end up having Tom Brady because I'm not going to be the guy that gets him the year he falls off. Like
I did that with Manning 1 year.
I did that with Manning. The year I waited 3 years in a row. I was like, this is the year. I'm not doing it. And I finally got him. And he 9 touchdowns, 17 interceptions. His worst game year.
Did the same shit with Breeze.
No, not doing it.
So none of you guys will have Tom Brady on your roster. Unless if there's a value.
I'll do it this year if it's not dynasty. I do want to bring up one more point on this dual threat shit. I know he doesn't run the ball, but this guy's had 2 or more rushing touchdowns every year since 2018. He will score a random ass push in.
He will score quarterback sneaks. He's good at it. He's the best quarterback sneaker of all time in the NFL.
Because no one expects it.
He gets. I mean, you think about it. That's 3 rushing touchdowns a year. That's more rushing value. I think. I mean, he could still potentially score. He's not getting yards, but he still gets those random ass touchdowns. That adds to his 40 points.
And I get that can be the difference between a QB, 8 and a QB 9 or whatever, but I don't know. I'm drafting him for 3 rushing touchdowns.
Exactly. Especially because those 3 rushing touchdowns, if he didn't get, would be 3 passing touchdowns more than likely.
Yeah.
So he'd still get 12 points out of the
He's on the 1 yard line. He gives it to playoff Lenny.
And Mike Evans is on the corner.
Did you not just watch the highlight?
Yeah,
he was on the 1 yard line like 3 times, and he threw it 3 times.
I just wanted to sound smart, knowing that he had 2 or more rushing since 2018.
Well, I tried to sound smart and predictive, and you guys ripped me a new asshole. So
yeah, your turn, Dylan.
All right, Dylan, you brought up playoff Lenny. What should we be expecting from Leonard Fournette this season?
He's a dog. Woof, woof. That dude is an absolute beast. I mean, we talk about this fella. I said, I got him as an RB1. We did our little mock draft, little snizzy Lizzy, what we did before. And that dude was he's all over the place. I mean, he had 180 rushes last year, caught 69 balls. Nice. I mean, this dude is all over the place. Everywhere you go, he's doing it, right? And, I mean, this is a year for a guy like Leonard Fournette. I know you lose Rob Gronkowski. There's still going to be a pass-heavy offense. With what they got going, you lose your head coach and Bruce Arians. That's all right. Playoff Lenny is an absolute beast. He's going to get a ton of work. They lose Ronald Jones. That's 102 attempts. He caught 10 passes last year. And then you potentially bring in a Rashad White. I think he's not going to be too big of a factor on the Leonard Fournette workload. It seems like they trust him a lot, especially receiving the ball. Those 69 catches, again, nice. Worked pretty well for Leonard Fournette as he went around last year. I think that was something. I think some people worry about Giovanni Bernard. He played 12 games, caught 23 balls last year. I don't worry about that too much. So really, it's just a similar situation to last year, except you got a rookie back there being the backup running back as opposed to Ronald Jones. I think Leonard Fournette gets carries and is an absolute beast this year.
Is it possible to see Leonard Fournette as the RB1 at the end of the season?
Overall?
No
way.
Okay.
I don't think so, but I want to bring up there. Point.
You got to remember, you got to remember there he is not. So you talked about those 100 carries that Ronald Jones have. If Leonard Fournette takes most of those carries, he is not going to get the work in the passing game like he got last year. Like, they are not going to watch Leonard Fournette go for 400 touches. It's not going to happen in Tampa. They're going to use Keyshawn Vaughn. They're going to use Rashad White, Gio Bernard. So I don't worry because I think it could still have the same value. I think he actually reduces his passing volume numbers this year, probably maybe to like 40 to 50 catches, and his rushing totals go up because I do think they don't have a guy behind him like a Ronald Jones who carries the ball in between the tackles. Keyshawn Vaughn's more of an outside guy. He can work in the pass game. Gio Bernard, Rashad White, all those guys are more passing down backs, whereas Leonard Fournette's that dual threat, but I think they're going to need him to run the ball more.
But on third down, do you trust a rookie in Rashad White in that situation, potentially in a pass-catching role with his pass-blocking abilities? But what I'm saying, I mean, essentially,
he's actually a really good pass blocker. That's why they like him.
That's good.
But I see your point, which is why I think Keyshawn Vaughn and Gio Bernard will still play a little bit of a role.
But, I mean, Tom Brady threw 106 balls to running backs last year. Like, he likes to dump down. He's old. I think the passing work still could be there with more rushing value, which is why I love him this year. But, AJ, go ahead.
I mean, it's just a bunch of stack and release. I mean, you get these guys in to, give a little bump. But if it breaks down, yeah, Tom Brady sees his progression before the play even happens. So, but to Aaron's point, just the weapons alone, we watched them use that offense to its best abilities. They spread the ball around. Tom Brady gets everyone involved. Leonard Fournette, I do believe he's going to run a little bit more. But the passing downs, like 400 touches is insane. I mean, sure, they brought him back, but it's not to the level that I wanted. So I kind of agree with Aaron on this thought process. It's going to see it come down and watch them spread the ball out to all the receivers, get extra running backs put in this game, and keep Tom Brady with as many weapons as possible.
Definitely
Leonard
an
Fournette
RB1.
gets 250 touchdowns. 250 touchdowns. 250 touches. If he gets 250 touches, which is about what he got last year, maybe a little bit less than that, he'll be a top 10 running back like he was last year.
Yeah, definitely an RB1 season coming up for Leonard Fournette. Let's move on to the New Orleans Saints here, Aaron. How we talk about Chris Olave, Jarvis Landry, Michael Thomas. How should fantasy owners feel about the wide receivers in New Orleans? Specifically, let's get it all out there now. Let's talk about Michael Thomas. We've had a lot of kiboshing with our Fantasy Outlook episodes. Let's end this talk about Michael Thomas here and discuss how fantasy owners should be feeling about him specifically, and then we'll get into the rest of the wide receivers within the New Orleans Saints.
Oh, man, it's tough, but I'm going to be honest. I'm done with Michael Thomas. I mean, as a career, like, I think he's done. And this may sound a bit harsh and a bit weird, but Michael Thomas is 29 years old. He's not 24, 25. And he was an excellent fantasy receiver the first 4 years of his career. We're talking about a guy that went over 1,100 yards, had 9 touchdowns in 3 of those 4 years. Absolute PPR beast, top 8, top 7 every year. But he hasn't played football consistently since 2019. And he's almost 30 years old. That's a problem for me. He doesn't have the connection with Jameis Winston. It's not Drew Brees anymore. Can he play well? Yeah, I'm sure. But I'm just not touching this guy. I don't trust it. He's one of those guys where you're okay with saying, you know what? Maybe this is good value for Michael Thomas, but you pass. And then he ends up having a really good year. I'm okay with saying, you know what? Oh, well, I missed out on that. Because I firmly believe that Michael Thomas is not a wide receiver 2 anymore. He's not playing 16 games. I don't know how bad he wants it. And I don't like blaming money, but he hasn't worked very hard since he signed that contract to get back on the field, to stay healthy. It's like he finds every reason not to be there. And the mentality of, oh, can't guard Mike, I wear this chip on my shoulder, doesn't seem to be there. And you can say what you want. It happens all the time in professional sports. When somebody gets the bag, that drive just isn't there anymore to get back on the field. So I question that, and I don't like questioning that from players, but I do. And I'm just staying away. I'm staying away.
See, I'm glad you threw out the age thing there, because that is a very interesting point about Michael Thomas being not necessarily up there in age, but 29 years old is not young anymore. And I saw someone respond to a Twitter post about Michael Thomas and how people are thinking that Deshaun Watson can come back and just be fine and dandy and everyone be trusting him and okay with his performance after missing an entire year. But you brought it up, the age. Deshaun Watson is 26. Michael Thomas being 29, a little bit different here. I don't know.
It's also a different position. That matters. The beating you take as a wide receiver or running back versus a quarterback where you can't really be touched. And not saying Deshaun Watson hasn't taken hits, but there's a difference. As a quarterback, you can be Tom Brady. You get offensive line, you can drop back. You can never literally be touched really in the game. That's not the case for a skill position player. You're going to get hit. It's a huge difference. It's why quarterbacks aren't in their prime until 28, 29, 30, and wide receivers and running backs are maximizing their prime or the end of their prime at that time. It's just 2 different positions.
Dylan?
Yeah. I'm gonna sit back on this one. I know. I think Michael Thomas. I don't want to get him started. I know I'm keeping an eye on the clock there, top left there, kid. But I know that
I can take care of that. You go on. You go on here with the. Because before the show you were like, I'm ready. I'm ready for Aaron. I'm not going to be backing down.
Yeah, I thought he had different viewpoints. I thought I was going to potentially have a take on the Baker Mayfield spot, but we ran through that fairly quickly. So that was going to be my rebuttal. But I sit here and look at Michael Thomas, and I understand. I got your viewpoint. You said Michael Thomas, the RCOD days, you were all about that bag and dip or whatever you said about his work ethic when it came to he doesn't want to get back on the field. I get that. And I keep seeing negative around him. But this is also that dude that was an absolute beast when he was on the field, the number 1 fantasy wide receiver. There was no dip off. There was no inconsistency. That dude was 20, 20, 20, 20, 20, 30, 20, 20. Dude was buckets, absolute buckets in fantasy. And that's what he brought week after week. And I know he is getting older. You fear the number 30 on a wide receiver. Jarvis Landry also going to turn 30 this year. So maybe that bodes in the Chris Olave discussion for you there, AJ. But no, I think Michael Thomas, I think he's a solid receiver. I just got to see him play football again. And I hope it happens soon. And I think he's still very talented and can make an impact.
Are any of you guys drafting him at his ADP? He's being drafted as the wide receiver 24 with the 60th pick.
Hell no.
24?
Yep.
Wide
receiver 24.
What round?
Nope.
What round?
60. So that's the 60th pick. That is, guys, do the math.
Round 5. The end of round 5.
There it is.
And this is the last pick in round 5.
I'm not
No
touching
way. That's
the
way
10th
too
football.
early. There's too much unknown to do that there.
And Dylan, you brought up Jarvis Landry. The difference between Jarvis Landry and Michael Thomas, I know Jarvis is going to work.
And you know he's going to play. Dude,
that's what I mean. That's what I mean. Work to get back. If he's hurt, he's going to play through it. there's zero doubt in his passion for the game, and I don't see that in Michael Thomas.
So we talk about what we were going to talk about the rest of the wide receivers in New Orleans. I guess you would say Jarvis Landry has the best value. He's going as the wide receiver 51 with the 130th pick in the draft, which would be, math is hard. Around the 10th, 11th round there. That's. I did the math. I divided it. I just did it.
150 in a 12-team league. 12 times 12 is 140.
I didn't say 150. I said 130.
Oh, I thought you said 150.
No, I said 130 as the wide receiver 51.
Shout out Joey B, mathematician, Notre Dame.
There you go. But yeah, so he might be the best value pick out of all these wide receivers in New Orleans because it's fair to say you can trust Jarvis Landry to be on the field, to be producing with Jameis Winston, who, if Jameis Winston can continue on his path that he started last year with New Orleans, it could mean good things to the New Orleans Saints wide receivers. Let's go to Carolina now, gentlemen. Wait.
You're just going to skip over Chris Olave?
No, I'm not. I mean, I'm.
I love to talk about Chris Olave. No, I just want everybody to go out and draft Chris Olave. I'm giving the advice to draft Chris Olave. Vinny, can you tell me Chris Olave's ADP?
Chris Olave's ADP, he is going with the 111th pick, so that would be the 9th round.
Okay, so everybody go out in the 9th round and find a way to draft Chris Olave. And I'm not joking here, because there is zero doubts in my mind that Chris Olave, now that I've shit on him, as much as I've shit on him, will end up being a high wide receiver 2, and be balling out all year. Because the last time I shit on a player, as much as I've shit on Chris Olave, it was Le'Veon Bell coming out of Michigan State. He turned out to be the best fantasy option that was possible for 4 or 5 seasons. So I guarantee Chris Olave is going to be great because Aaron shit on him all offseason.
I do like Chris Olave. I love the pick there too. I said that on the draft show.
I think he'll be good. I think he'll be good. Let's go on to the Panthers now. Obviously, they made the big splash with Baker Mayfield now coming in. There's a lot of fantasy implications here. We talk about DJ Moore. We know how good he was before. But, Dylan, what impact does Baker Mayfield bring to the wide receiver group as a whole? DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, maybe throwing a Terrace Marshall in there. What is his impact on the wide receivers as a whole?
Yeah, when Baker Mayfield comes in, I think Baker Mayfield, when you look, he needs a healthy Christian McCaffrey. I think that's going to be a big factor into what he can bring to that offense. I mean, you look at what happened last year when Nick Chubb missed some games, and he was battling with injuries himself. But even more so, I'll look back to his fantastic 2020 season where he had 26 touchdowns and 8 picks. In the games that Nick Chubb missed games, he was on injured reserve for about 4 weeks. Wasn't his best stat lines throughout the course of those games. So I think looking at that, I think he needs a consistent run game. He's a quarterback that needs everything to be right for him to work, and he has weapons here. But you also got to remember, he had weapons in Cleveland, right? He had Jarvis Landry, he had Odell Beckham. He had pieces to work with, but that didn't really escalate to fantasy value to those receivers. So I think he's an upgrade over Sam Darnold. I think it helps out the receiving room a little bit better. DJ Moore, but I don't think that he can bring exponential value like, oh my gosh, they got Baker, let's go out and get this receiver now. But it's not as bad as Sam Darnold.
I also think he has an upgrade in receivers, so to speak. And what I mean by that is the connection was never there with OBJ. Jarvis Landry had the good season, but as last year, Jarvis Landry kind of went as Baker kind of went. What?
I know where he's going.
You said he's got a better
Robbie Anderson told him he didn't even
Robbie Anderson already, he ain't even on the team yet. Robbie Anderson saying, fuck this guy.
Hilarious. Yeah. Hey, what was the first thing I said when Baker got traded? Robbie Anderson's going to be his number 1 this season. Yeah.
Robbie Anderson, they asked Robbie Anderson today about how he felt about Baker Mayfield now being his quarterback in his comments. And he's like, I was just defending my quarterback at the time. I was just trying to be behind my quarterback then. Robbie Anderson now backpedaling. We're about to see him retire because Baker Mayfield's his quarterback.
He already questioned it.
He gonna be OBJ. He not gonna get any targets, and he gonna be mad.
Right? Yeah, there you go.
Terrace
Go ahead, AJ, finish
breakout
your
season.
point.
Yeah, but all I meant was just the way that the receivers kind of worked with him in Cleveland was just underwhelming. And I mean, at one point now you're left with Jarvis Landry as your one. You're hoping Higgins can go off. Peoples-Jones was a big name for 2 weeks or something like that. So once there was no OBJ and Njoku was yet to show up, now you look at a complement of a guy like DJ Moore who can make it work with any quarterback, Robbie Anderson who can get down the field if you're willing to throw the ball after all the jokes you just made, and Terrace Marshall, a guy we believe as a youngster has a pretty bright future. So I think with these weapons, this receiving core, and of course if CMC can be healthy, I do like the weapons he has there, and I do think he has another good chance to have a good season if he is named the starter, so to speak.
Does anyone's value jump up? You talked. Dylan mentioned it before with like no one's value really skyrockets or anything like that. Does DJ Moore's value change? Does it go up now that he has Baker Mayfield? Does Robbie Anderson? Does anyone's value change now that Baker Mayfield is the quarterback in Carolina?
No, I mean, when has Baker really been a fantasy guy?
Right.
Like, we could talk about Baker Mayfield, and I know Dylan likes Baker Mayfield as a quarterback from a real football perspective, but he's not a fantasy guy. He's not going to come in and throw 40 to 45 touchdowns. We talk about things having to be right around him. The fact of the matter is that offense is not going to be some high-powered, explosive offense. It still goes as one man goes, and that's Christian McCaffrey. He's going to be the fantasy guy there. He's going to be the one that gets all the fantasy points. And then DJ Moore should fill in like we talked about as a really good receiver. Robbie Anderson will have his moments. But nobody's going to be like, oh, we got Baker now. I'm going to go for 1,500 and 12 touchdowns. Like that's –
yeah. Baker's also going to be asked to do a little bit more as well, like especially if, and God forbid there's a CMC injury, because like in Cleveland, it was run. Hey, go ahead and throw a pass. Even here with Christian McCaffrey, like you're going to be dumping the ball and passing and getting the passing game going a lot more than you had to in Cleveland, in my opinion. So he's going to be asked to do more too, which means he's going to need to be more efficient or we'll be having the same conversations we had. Yeah.
That spells disaster if he's asked to do more. If Christian McCaffrey gets hurt, they're going to be in the same situation. They're going to be done because it's going to be the same thing. You're going to ask Baker to go out and win you games, and that's where he's prone to mistakes. He plays really well when he's within himself. He can make quick reads, get rid of the ball, but when he starts having to be hero Baker, he starts trying to prove himself too much, and that's when he starts making mistakes. This is not the college-level defenses that he was doing that against at Oklahoma.
I'm just glad it's over. Baker has
it's not over. It's just the beginning, man.
That's true. All right, let's finish it up with the Atlanta Falcons here. AJ, you had Drake London at 4. We dove into it a little bit at the beginning of the show. What should we expect? What should we be expecting from Drake London this season? Where's his fantasy value? Wide receiver 2, 3, obviously not a wide receiver 1, I'd hope, but where do you see what do you see happening with Drake London this season?
I think he can be a high-end wide receiver 3. I think he's going to get a lot of opportunity. I think it'll mostly be him and Kyle Pitts. And again, I do agree that Bryan Edwards has a chemistry with Mariota, and they brought him in to keep that tall receiver room going. But I know how much they like this guy and want to get him hitting the ground running fast. And I do think they're going to kind of do what USC did and force feed him the ball a little bit on the other side of Kyle Pitts. And as you can see, when it comes to contested catches, he was first in college football last year with 19 contested catches. That's something they really like. It's going to make him a danger around the red zone and along with Kyle Pitts. So I expect a lot more opportunity for him. I think he has the potential to be a high-end wide receiver 3 if he gets the opportunity I'm expecting.
That's fair. I think that's fair. That's fair.
I don't know. I don't know about high end, but I can see him being a wide receiver 3. High end wide receiver 3 is like wide receiver 30, 27. Like I think that's a little bit too high. If you talk about guys that are going around that position, I'm sorry. To me, he's nowhere near guys like Gabriel Davis, Tyler Lockett, DeAndre Hopkins, Devontae Smith, Juju Smith, Rashad Bateman, Robert Woods. Like
you don't even think he's Juju Smith?
No.
I mean,
no.
I mean,
no.
I like.
And again, it's not Drake London. This is not. Yeah. This has nothing really to do with Drake London. You guys know, I said Drake London was the best receiver coming out of the draft. I thought he could be. Him and Garrett Wilson were clearly the 2 best receivers. I like Drake London.
Yeah.
I hate Marcus Mariota. And then even when they go to a Desmond Ridder, then you have to worry about that rookie growth and going through those rookie pains. To me, this is just not that year for Drake London. Now, if we want to talk next year, year 2, Ridder's now 2 years in that offense. Now that connection has grown. We could have a different conversation. But that Marcus Mariota just scares me, man. He just scares me from a fantasy perspective. I don't know that he's going to be able to support 2 fantasy assets. Like, really. And so I'm going to take Kyle Pitts because I know they're going to get Kyle Pitts the ball. Like, that dude is – we saw what he did last year. Like, that was a rookie. Like, we know they're going to get him the ball. So I don't know that 2 guys I'm looking at the end of the season saying, man, those were 2 really good fantasy assets out of Atlanta from the outsider catching passes. And we haven't even talked about what's going to happen with Cordero Patterson. And is he going to be involved more in the passing game and how that affects some of those targets? So I just low end 3 for me, flex play in some leagues. And because he's going to be on the field, it's great. It's always good to have guys on the field with the talent like he has. But you're going to have to withstand those games where you're like, Jesus Christ, Marcus Mariota, please replace him.
2 quick takes here. You said he can't support more than 1 fantasy option. I will go to bat for that. He made Corey Davis look shittier than he actually was. And I mean, you bring up one. I'll bring up something here. Kyle Pitts only 1 touchdown last year, which I mean, yuck. But you look at Ryan. Yeah, with Matt Ryan. Marcus Mariota, when he was in Tennessee, one dude that he loved was Delaney Walker, his tight end. And that's one thing that he did. And I think he could get that with Kyle Pitts. I know Pitts will be outside a little bit more. He's more athletic than big old Delaney huddling around. But I mean, I think that could definitely play a factor. But you bring up in the run game there with Cordero Patterson, the quick little checkdowns and stuff. I mean, Tennessee brought in Deion Lewis, and they didn't even use him in that aspect of checking down and stuff. And that was with Arthur Smith and Marcus Mariota and everything they did there. I don't really think that they'll do a lot of checkdowns. I know that fits his skill set, but Marcus doesn't check down. He gets sacks, and he ends up on the bench or hurt.
I didn't actually mean checkdowns for Cordero Patterson. I mean more like, does he actually revert back to wide receiver almost? I don't think he can carry the workload like he did last year at the running back position. And I do think, as I don't know much about Tyler Algier and how good he's going to be, but I do think they drafted him for a reason. They brought in with Damian Williams or whoever for a reason to take some of those carries away from Cordero Patterson because it doesn't really fit him. He played well, but that dude's not going to withstand all that. He's going to get injured, and he's going to be off the field. And I think he's better suited on the field as a weapon. And I just wonder how many targets he'll actually get in the pass game.
Draft Drake London, draft Kyle Pitts, maybe Cordero Patterson. That's it. That does it for the Falcons.
Cordero Patterson?
You're drafting Cordero Patterson. You're drafting Cordero Patterson. You're drafting Drake London. You're drafting Kyle Pitts. There you have it for NFC South talk here. Falcons, Panthers, Saints, and Bucks all done. Friday's episode, we are coming at you with the Fun and Games Friday show that you are not going to want to miss tomorrow morning, live at 10 a.m. Eastern time on YouTube, on Facebook, AJ, on Facebook as well. Tell them where else. What?
Just go for it.
Tell them where they can follow us at.
It's happening.
Yeah, I'll tell you where you can follow us at on Facebook, like Vinny said, at Sac City Pod, as well as on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Hit those likes, hit those shares. You know how we do in the city. You follow the city. You follow all the roads to Facebook and to Twitter and to Instagram and to TikTok and to YouTube. It's not that hard, but make sure when you're there, you hit those subscribes, you hit those follows, you hit those shares, and then you talk about it all day. The only thing that should be taught, you should just say Sac City about 50 times a day. It'll make your day and everybody's day better so they can wake up the next day for a good morning, Sac City. Hashtag GMSC every Wednesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern. Your boys are back in town.
There it is. We'll be back again tomorrow live at 10 a.m. Eastern time, right here in the city. For your boy, AJ Johnson, for my best friend, Aaron Mukes, and for the smoothest voice in sportscasting, Dylan Kearns, I am me. We will see you tomorrow.
Peace out.
Bye.